Hello everybody, it's Wyvern here with another bit of Total War Warhammer Quick Magic gameplay. This time around I'm playing as the Greenskins against the Empire led by Stilo on the map MP Crossroads. And I decided to bring us out to the good old Doomdivers, the suicidal gobos. So let's see how things break down. So right off the bat, I did bring Skarsnik as my lord, and this was in part because he's cheap, but in part because he is anti-large, and he does bring along Tracy traps, which can help your units just be a little more mobile and help the leadership just a little bit more on otherwise pretty easy to break orc units. He does have wall, of course, stand your ground, and I did bring Skarsnik's Broader because Empire does sometimes bring infantry clumps, and against those, Skarsnik's Broader is very, very effective. Alongside him, I did bring a Night Goblin Shaman. He is coming in, of course, with Sneaky Stealin', Sneaky Stabbin', Itchy Nuisance, as well as Gork'll Fix-It, which is a pretty significant speed debuff. And it can, as well as a charge bonus and vigor debuff, and it can definitely make it easier to kind of lock down enemy units when you don't have that much poison on the field. For my front line, I did bring a bunch of Savage Orcs. Of course, Savage Orcs are immune to Psychology, which Empire does tend to bring. You will often see Altdorf Griffites, you'll often see the Generals mounted on Griffins, and that sort of stuff, and all that causes terror. So it's very good to bring Savage Orcs, because while the Frenzy is up, they are immune to Psychology. They also have 30% physical resistance, which means they'll be pretty tanky and trade pretty effectively with most Empire infantry. They're definitely one of the most cost-efficient infantry in the game. Me and them 2 units of Black Orcs just to kind of shut down enemy armored units, something like Great Swords, for example, as well as just to crush. The Black Orcs, of course, will crush something like a Flagellant Line or Spearmen or that sort of stuff very, very handily. For my shooting contingent, I did bring 3 units of Goblin Archers, one of which is the Rusty Heirs. Goblin Archers, in spite of the fact they have pretty atrocious range, can dish out quite a bit of hurt just through sheer volume, and they are fairly accurate. And the Rusty Heirs, of course, do have that armor sundering mechanic, which means that they can weaken enemy lords and units fairly significantly. Finally, in the back, I do actually have 2 units of Doomdiver catapults. These guys are actually, they're a very solid artillery piece, definitely one of the better artillery pieces in the game. The range isn't the best, it's only 400, which is below most factions' artillery pieces, but they are very precise because the projectile is a goblin, so with wings strapped to it. And they can even shoot enemy lords out of the sky and just be a constant sort of harassment tool. They're decent against basically all targets. And if my opponent brings Great Swords, something like that, then I can use them against those for great effect. Finally, I do have 2 units of Orc Boar Boy Big Guns, one of which is the Broken Tusk Mob, the Regiment of Renown. The reason I bring the Broken Tusk Mob is because they do have 90 armor, and that makes them comparable to Empire Cavalry in straight-up stats, while at the same time having enough armor so that they don't get mauled in the process. Normally, while Orc Boar Boy Big Guns will trade pretty well with most Empire Cav, their low armor means that they take a huge they'll lose a huge amount of HP. So they'll win, but they'll often win at a pretty high cost, which is one of the reasons I do like the Broken Tusk Mob. And yeah, that is basically it for my comp. For my opponent's comp, he went pretty simple, but he did bring a bit of a good old cheese mechanic here with the Temple of Luminarch. Front line can center around 4 units of Flagellants, which are of course unbreakable, and with their solid weapon strength, they'll tear through most squishy Greenskin infantry. They have a pretty good charge bonus, and they also seem what is this ability? Aura of Protection. They actually have an Aura of Protection, which I assume is being radiated by the Temple of Luminarch. Yes, indeed. That's also actually a pretty significant buff. I never even realized that Luminarch does that, but that's pretty cool. That's a pretty cool buff. It could definitely help against my gun line. They of course do have the strength of the Penitent, which increases their melee defense when they are losing, as well as their physical resistance, which is actually a pretty strong ability, given that it means that they die a lot slower than you would normally expect. 2 units of Halberdiers out on each flank just to shut down any large units I might try to charge in, as well as provide some cheaper armor-piercing support. A Jade Wizard up in the air, a very common sort of pick with Dwellers Below, of course, and Earthblood. Karl Franz, bit of an interesting pick here, but he is coming in with Foe Seeker, Furious Onslaught, and Stand Your Ground. Surprisingly, no Galmaraz or Reichland or Runerhang, which you kind of usually expect. A Vanilla Demigryph Knights with Halberds. And as mentioned before, the Temple of Luminarch, which of course is a normal Luminarch, but with way more accuracy, and the net of Mintok. And that R actually might be unique to it. So we're throwing things into kind of full gear here. We're going to fast forward a little bit. You can see I'm trying to push my artillery pieces into position. My opponent is pushing his units into position. Unfortunately, the Luminarch will get a shot off onto poor Skarsnik over here, and you can actually see that it hits him despite the fact that I was moving sideways. Definitely a bit of a frustrating development there. I do try to hit it with the Doomdivers, and you can see some actually do connect. It has fairly low armor, so if and when the Doomdivers do connect, they will do some damage to it, but it's definitely not efficient, and shortly I will change targets. I'm trying to pull Skarsnik out of range because I don't want him getting hit by the Luminarch if I can avoid it. Orcs it is a bit of a cheat strat, I guess, or a bit of a gimmicky strat, because Orc leadership is definitely their key weak point. So the Temple of Lunarch sniping enemy lords is definitely a bit of a gimmick there. You can see that the Flagellants are taking quite a bit of beating over there. And now I'm trying to push in a little bit from the flank with the Boar Boys. Over here, I am dropping good old Gorkil Fix It just to slow these guys down a little bit and disrupt their charge bonus so that my units can get full charge bonus in. These Flagellants do take a bit more of a hurt. You can see the Temple of Luminarch has actually taken a bit of a beating. It's down to 2,000 HP. And the Savage Orcs are now just kind of plowing in and beating up on these Flagellants. And with the Black Orcs coming into support, I do throw the Black Orcs in against the Flagellants rather than the Halberdiers. The Black Orcs will tear through the Flagellants very, very effectively. Fortunately, a bit of mismicro here, and the Broken Tusk Mob gets engaged upon by the Demigryph Knights with Halberds. And this is a major issue because the Demigryph Knights with Halberds, I accidentally cast Sneaky Stabbing over here instead of on these guys, and the Demigryph Knights with Halberds get their full charge bonus. The Broken Tusk Mob do not, and as anybody who plays with Orcs knows, they rely a lot on their charge bonus because their melee stats are actually fairly weak in many respects. So definitely a huge mistake there, and you can see the Demigryphs are taking minimal losses and tearing through my Broken Tusks. Over here, though, in the meantime, Carl has dove down on the Doomdiver. You can see the Luminarch smack Skarsnik, which is a huge bit of damage there. I'm shocked that the Luminarch is really this precise. It's pretty crazy. Over here, a an issue nuisance has kind of expired finally. And you can see over here I'm trying to push in against the Luminarch, but because it does have that net of Mintok built in, it is simply going to net these Orc Boar Boy Big Guns, and they're going to it's going to be able to get away for a little bit longer. Carl over here has dove down on Skarsnik and is killing him. And in the meantime, my Night Goblin Shaman is getting surrounded by Demigryphs. Fortunately, though, I do have this Doomdiver still online and this horde of Goblin Archers, and you can see that despite the fact that these Demigryphs are pretty tanky, they have very high armor and all that sort of stuff, they are getting absolutely annihilated by the focused fire from the Goblins. The Shaman, of course, does take a bit of a beating in the process, but that is okay. He's only there really to cast spells, not to fight. And if he stalls, that's good. Earthblood does go down on these Flagellants, just helping him stick around a little longer. And my Orc Boar Boy Big Guns do break out of the net, and I do charge him in at the Temple of Luminarch now. My opponent is trying to retreat, but that is simply not going to work out. You can see the Locus of Hish is affecting the Black Orcs and all these. They're just completely irrelevant because none of these units rely on magic. Over here, though, you can see the Halberdiers just kind of crashing into the, getting shot up by arrows. Goblin arrows, as you can see here, they're just absolutely annihilating these lightly armored squishy units, especially because these guys have had their armor stripped to 0 by the rusty arrows. Unfortunately, the Jade Wizard as well as Carl are diving in on the Goblin Archers. The fact that I have Sneaky Stealing is definitely hurting my opponent a fair bit here, and making it difficult for him to capitalize on the Jade Wizard. I'm trying to bring Skarsnik back into the fight, which might have been a bit of a mistake. I might have been better off just leaving him in the back and making sure my Lord stayed alive. Goblin Archers are not doing particularly well against the Jade Wizard, but at the same time, they're actually dishing out a little bit of hurt to him. Over here, you can see a Gorkil Fix It going down on Carl, just trying to keep him grounded, but it's not really working out. He's still moving fairly quickly, and he's actually going to kill poor Skarsnik over here in a single mighty charge. However, my Archers are going in against the Halberdiers. They're just kind of whittling him down. You can see the Boar Boys have recovered, and they are now pushing back in, even as the Goblin Archers are terrified off the field. I'm trying to get these Goblin Archers onto these Halberds, just trying to wipe out my opponent's fleeing units so that they don't come back. The Flagellants will obviously be slaughtered to man. As you can see, they're doing very, very little to the Flagellants are doing very, very little to the Black Orcs. The Black Orcs have basically gotten through with not a scratch. The Savage Orcs over here did get beaten up, and they're actually returning to the fray. You can see the Halberdiers over here running away. I definitely make a bit of a mistake here by not sticking the Savage Orcs onto the Halberdiers. I could have definitely pursued them off the field and kind of slaughter them. Instead, I converge on these Flagellants and make a mistake of exposing myself to Dwellers Below. Over here, the Demigryph Knights actually did get caught by a charge from the Broken Tusk Mob for once, so both units get slaughtered heavily by their own Goblin Fire. And you can see the Demigryph Knights here are down to 3 models, and shortly it'll be down to 2 as they're pursued kind of off the field. Orc Boar Boy Big Guns are cycling back. I do need to try to kind of break the Jade Wizard and Carl Franz here. And you can see the Dwellers Below is going down, and I was not paying attention. The last second I do see it going down, but it is far too late, and you can see it pops up. And of course, because there's Dwellers Below affects all units in the radius, a full unit if just one model is in the radius, it does some exorbitant amounts of damage to my Savage Orcs. I do lose about 3 units here completely, as well as taking significant hurt on the Black Orcs and significant hurt on the Rusty Arrows. The Dwellers Below is definitely a spell you gotta watch out for. Definitely a bit of a mistake there on my part. Hopefully it will be patched and fixed fairly soon, because right now it's definitely a bit of a Empire, well, and it really a Lore of Life gimmick that you will almost always see. You can see the arrows are doing some damage to Carl, and you can see the Doomdivers are actually trying to hit him. They actually are clipping him every now and then. Doomdivers don't have the best of armor piercing though, so Carl was actually Carl doesn't have that much armor right now because he's being debuffed. But you can see he does terrify off the crews. These Goblin Archers are barely sticking around. They do fire off a volley into Carl though, just whittling him down a little bit. In the meantime, I do see there are all these units kind of sitting around doing nothing. So what I'm doing is I'm taking my Black Orcs and I'm moving them to intercept. I'm trying to just shut down these halberds once and for all. In the meantime, I have chased the demigriffs, thinking that I'd have chased them off completely. I have not actually. So the broken tusk mob left the job undone, thinking that it was kind of all over. Over here, Carl just kind of flies over the goblins, ignoring them and going for my backline. At this point, because my army is so very scattered, it is making it very difficult for me to kind of shut down these flyers. I also need to kind of deal with all these side units out on the flanks, the halberds, and that retreated earlier. And so I'm committing the black orcs to it because the savage orcs aren't around because they got hit by that nasty dwellers below. And that's definitely causing me a bit of a pain here. You can see an Earthblood is going down. It is completely normal vanilla Earthblood, so nothing too fancy. Over here, the Night Goblin Shaman is getting charged, and I do try to cast a Gorkle Fix-It on Carl, but it is too little too late. He gets terrified and interrupts the cast, although it does take my Winds of Magic. The Black Orcs are tearing through these halberdiers. You can see there's actually 3 hits of halberdiers here, and the Black Orcs are tearing through them. They will successfully do it eventually. But it may take them a while. These Black Orcs have in the meantime finished, and I will start pulling them back shortly. My Goblin Archers are being dove upon by Carl and the Jade Wizard, so I do try to countercharge with the Orc Boar Boy Big Guns, trying to surround him and trying to wipe out the Jade Wizard as well as Carl. Carl, of course, pops Stand Your Ground, which makes both of them very, very hard to kill, and an Earthblood has gone down, which heals him just a little bit more. Now on the charge, of course, the Orc Boar Boy Big Guns are dishing out quite a bit of hurt, and they will do quite a bit of damage to both of these guys. But once their morale drops, their terror will kick in, and both of them will be, and this entire unit will be routed off away from these guys. I'm trying to get my Doomdivers back online. I'm trying to get even if I can get 1 or 2 shots off. I'm kind of hoping every little shot, every little bit of damage, every smidgen I can get is a win. Unfortunately, you can see my broken tusks over here do get routed off. Carl is diving in and just completely destroying these Doomdivers, making the crews flee for their lives. Definitely a bit of a problem. With Skarsnik gone, my morale is very, very low on most of my units. I don't have psychological immunity on most of them. My Savage Orcs are far too low, so their frenzy's kind of worn off. Over here, the Shaman, it does finally go down. I do believe he dies. It's not simply a shatter. Oh no, he's running away. He's just shattered. So I'm not actually sure if my opponent doesn't end up killing him. In the meantime, though, my Black Orcs have one of my units of Black Orcs has kind of finished up mopping those guys, mopping the halberds over there up. And this unit of Black Orcs is still trying to mop up the halberdiers. It's taking a while. The halberdiers have very high melee defense, and while Black Orcs do have very high melee attack, or well, actually not that high melee attack. They have decent melee attack. It will take them a while to hew through these black halberdiers. So you can see those halberds shattered, which only leaves this unit right there. In the meantime, though, I have gotten another charge in with the Orc Boar Boy Big Guns. I'm trying to finish out the Jade Wizard because Carl has a very decent amount of HP left, so I know that if I'm to have any chance, I need to finish out the Jade Wizard first and then deal with Carl. And now, finally, the Terror route, and or the Army Lost route, and that is game. A very, very tight match, and I think it was made tight by a few different factors, and not all of which I can. And there were some that definitely were a bit of pain. Losing Skarsnik very early on was a huge problem for me. The leadership loss, and there was no real way I could have avoided that. I don't think, because no matter which lord I brought, they would have been fairly susceptible to sniping from the Luminarch. I simply needed to keep him further back and play more cautiously. The Savage Orcs performed very well, but then that brutal Dwellers Below really kind of broke the back of my army, and it meant that I had to commit Black Orcs to chase down the fleeing Halberdiers, which is a very cost and efficient manner of doing things. But if I don't break them, I'm not going to be able to force my opponent to come down with Carl and company, and it would just be a major problem. The Archers actually did a decent amount of work. They definitely did a good amount of damage. And some did help pick off some of the Halberdiers, so definitely not bad. The Goblin/Orc, they also helped tear through the Demigriffs, which is a pretty solid contribution. So something I think people forget about the Orc/Goblin, I guess, gun line or arrow line, is that it's not actually that bad, even the cost put in, because they don't, while not having the best armor piercing, they shoot a lot of missiles. They're fairly accurate, and they'll definitely dish out a lot of hurt over time. Orc Boar Boy Big Guns did not perform that well, but that was largely because they first hunted down the Luminarch, and then they were hunting down Carl and the Jade Wizard, so it's rather difficult for them to get that much done. The Broken Dust Mob I completely mismanaged, and unfortunately, and they got caught out by the Demigriff Knights and ended up accordingly. Definitely a huge mistake on misplay on my part. The Doomdiver catapults did actually some okay work. They beat up on the Flagellants a little bit, beat up on the Luminarch a little bit, and got some work to do on the Demigriffs and the 2 Flying Lords. I'm not entirely sure they were worthwhile, but it was fun to try them out and fun to give them a shot. I think I would have been better suited with basically any other unit combination, though. As usual, artillery in this game is a bit weak. I mostly just wanted to kind of test it out and showcase what you can possibly do. So I do hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to leave a like and subscribe down below. Oh, I guess I should have also acknowledged the fact that my Night Goblin Shaman Did a lot of work. The spells, the sneaky stealing, the itchy nuisance, and all that sort of stuff definitely helped me quite a bit in the long run. And so yeah, one of the definitely pretty cool unit there. But going back, yes, as usual, guys, I do appreciate you for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to leave us a like and subscribe down below so you can keep up for more content. Total War Warhammer 2 will be coming out shortly. I will. I do believe only 4 days now. I'll definitely be doing a lot of gameplay with that. I'll definitely be starting campaign up almost basically immediately as soon as it's installed. Probably going to be playing as the Dark Elves initially. So definitely be on the lookout for that. I will try to complete the faction guide. I will try to complete the faction guide for Warsag and the Bloody Hands fairly soon. I just haven't had as much time as I would have liked to kind of record that. It does take a little bit of planning to do those things. But yeah, I do hope you guys enjoyed this video. I appreciate, and I'll see you all in the next one. Wyvern out.